The Tenerife Airport Disaster, presented by Alec Gerber, Alex Forslund, Christian Rojas, and Stephanie Gibbs. Blinded by thick fog, along with several ergonomic issues, two fully loaded Boeing 747s raced towards disaster in 1977, which is dubbed the worst accident in aviation history, killing nearly 600 people. A bomb threat at Gran Canaria Airport caused several planes to divert to Los Rodeos Airport on Tenerife Island, which was a much smaller and ill-equipped airport with only one runway. This caused much congestion at the airport. The increased traffic at the airport, as well as pilots' flight duty time limitations, caused much stress and impatience. On this day, they also only had 2 air traffic controllers on duty. The weather also began to cause problems when fog almost entirely obscured the runway, limiting visibility among the pilots as well as the tower control. Other ergonomic issues, particularly human factors issues, were evident in the cause of this disaster. A reenactment of the tragedy will now be shown.
Get off! Please! No, get off!
Will you hit us?
The main cause of this disaster was due to poor decision-making by KLM pilot Van Santen. He was faced with a lot of pressure and stress to take off as quickly as possible. This impatience was caused because of a duty time limit that, if exceeded, would force them to stay overnight, which would cost a lot and would bring legal issues. He also struggled with fixation, where the pilot was only concentrating on taking off as soon as possible, while ignoring his first officer who mentioned they didn't have proper clearance yet. The first officer was also afraid to speak up and correct the pilot because of their position and his experience.
Another cause of this disaster was poor communication between the planes among each other, as well as the planes with a common tower. Inadequate communication technology and the use of two-way VHF radios caused interruptions and partial messages being delivered, which caused confusion and unclear commands. Important messages such as locations of the planes and take-off requests were unclear. Language barriers also became a problem, as accent and non-standard terminology made it difficult for the pilots to understand. There were also reports that operators in the command were watching a soccer game and were therefore not fully focused on their job.
Although weather is unavoidable, the pilots and airport were ill-prepared for the fog that had moved in. The fog limited visibility, making it very difficult to see, and ultimately led to the poor communication and decision-making.
This disaster could have been prevented by several different ways. The pilot was so experienced and looked up to that he had decision bias and was not acting rationally when he decided to take off so quickly. If he would have listened to his first officer, he would have gone through proper clearance and given the Pan Am plane enough time to exit the runway. Another way this could have been avoided is by having proper technology on runways, such as adequate lighting to provide visibility in the fog. Proper communication technology would have allowed messages to go through even when one of the pilots is talking. Standard terminology should also have been used so that there was no confusion on when the Pan Am plane should have turned off the runway. Greater preparation and training in difficult situations should have been practiced so that these situations are handled properly. The disaster immediately led to changes in the aviation industry and clearly determined the need for better communication between pilots and air traffic control. These changes include a greater focus on the training of pilots to not only tolerate input from other crew members, but to strongly encourage it. Collision avoidance systems have been implemented which monitor airspace around an aircraft independent of air traffic control. Other technology improvements are also being tested, such as smart runway lights that inform the pilot of possible collisions from planes being on that runway. There is constant need for improvements in the aviation industry to avoid future collisions. And unfortunately, the tragedy of the Tenerife disaster pointed this out. However, aviation collisions have dropped significantly over the past recent years, yet there have been some close calls.